Welcome back. So this is the beginning of this afternoon session. So we have Pierre Lecomte with the Spatbox. I think his presentation is going to be slightly shorter so that you guys can go try the system upstairs. Then we'll have to come back here for the next workshop. Okay. Again, there is going to be a break, and after the break, there is going to be 2 parallel sessions. You're going to have to choose if you want to do Faust or if you want to do the other things. Okay, cool. Pierre.
Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Pierre, and I will present to you today a project I've been working on for a few months now, which is called the Spatbox. So, which is a project to spatialize sounds from an hardware interface. So the idea here is like, as we told this morning with the Tommy presentation, like 3D sound is widespread nowadays. So music, cinema, concert, game, virtual reality, and so on. And you have an important offer to create immersive sound content. But often I think I miss some hardware tool to play with and to spatialize sounds with just a few loudspeakers to offer the ordinary musician in his room to play with a few loudspeakers and to play with sound in space. That's the idea of this project. I was looking to design an autonomous hardware interface to spatialize sound in real time by just turning minimum knobs. That's the idea. And I should plug my instrument in it and then output the loudspeaker signals. And I have no more things to think. Should be very cheap for the ordinary musician, like a few €100. And my goal is to play live music with it, just to, not to compose, but just to play live music. What I did was to use Faust, as I usually do, and put that on an embedded system. And I went with a Raspberry Pi, which offers me with a multi-channel audio at 6 inputs and 8 outputs. And inside, the engine will be run with ambisonics. And so the Spatbox, what it is, right at the moment, it's an hardware interface. So knobs. Those knobs value are read by a Python wrapper written for the Raspberry Pi, which drives a trajectory engine, which I will present just in the next slide. So this trajectory engine can be used locally on the machine itself, or to drive remotely another audio engine, 3D audio engine. If you can afford like a big system with many loudspeakers, you still can use the Spatbox trajectory engine to drive your system. And the Spatial Audio Engine can as well be local in the machine for 8 loudspeakers maximum in this case, or remotely as well. And we'll have a problem to see your trajectories. For me, it's really important because just hearing it is kind of hard, especially if you have just a few numbers of loudspeakers. So there is a remote trajectory engine, which my goal would be to have it on the phone, on your mobile phone. So far, it's on a computer. And so the communication between all these blocks is like that. So the hardware interface provides to communicate with I2C bus on the Raspberry Pi. There is some Python code which handle all those value and send them through OSC. So there you can send it locally or remotely. And here you have your trajectory engine, which describes the trajectory of the sources, which drives the 3D audio engine, which inputs audio and outputs audio. And the trajectory parameters can be sent to a visualizer. So the trajectory engine, the approach I chose is to use parametric trajectory so that you can generate a multitude of trajectory just by turning a few parameters. And I went to describe the coordinate system over time with some functions. That's the idea. So either the Cartesian coordinate, if you want to front, back, left, right, up, down, or spherical, if you want the distance and angle from your point of view. So both coordinate systems are available. And you can pass from one to the other with those mathematical formula. And the idea is which functions to choose to drive those coordinates over time. And I went with a very common thing in audio, which is low frequency oscillators that so any people working with synthesizer should know. And depending on the waveform you're using, the frequency, the amplitude, and the phase relationship between your oscillator, you can start describing a trajectory. Exactly when you're running an oscilloscope and you plot y over x and you can see some patterns. That's the idea here. But you have z as well. So far I have 6 waveform available, from sine, sawtooth, or even square or noise. And some examples of trajectory. For instance, if I would like to have a circle, I could start with a sine oscillator on the x coordinate. And if I run a sine oscillator on the y coordinate exactly with same parameters, I'm going to have a diagonal oscillation. But now if I just put out of phase the sine to be a cosine, in fact, I will start having a circle. And if now I add a sawtooth oscillator on the z frequency, I will start having an helix, which starts again and again. And by changing, for instance, the amplitude of the y or x, I can describe an ellipse and not a circle anymore, and so on. So just by turning a few knobs, you can move your source around. And for instance, this flower-shaped trajectory would be done with a sine oscillator on the radius coordinate, if I choose the spherical coordinate system. So the source is going closer and further over time. At the same time, I put a sawtooth on the azimuth, so it's turning on azimuth, while it's going further, and so you describe this flower. Now if I put, for instance, a sawtooth instead of a sine, I will have some gear-shaped trajectories, and so on. So that's the idea of the trajectory engine. And so the Spatial Audio Engine now is provided by ambitools, so some tools have been written with FOST for a few years now. And because it's in FOST, you can have many output format. So you can drive a remote system, or you can put the code on the Raspberry Pi or on whatever you want. And so far I have some encoders, some decoders. I have binaural decoder and spatial audio effects, which I will so the next step for the Spatbox is to insert some effects between encoding and decoding. It's already on the machine, as you will see, but the knobs are not working yet. And so the features right now at this moment of the project is like on the interface, you can have the coordinate system you can choose with a selector. You have a Doppler effect if you want, because when your source is moving, you can have this pitch shifting effect, so the Doppler effect. You have some knobs to scale and the trajectory by multiplying by a factor all the LFO at the same time. So your circle will be big, and you can play with that. You have a speed as well. So far the speed is you can have an internal clock system, or you can synchronize with MIDI from an outside instrument. You have hold and reset functions that you can press a button and the trajectory just hold in place, so you freeze your mix. Reset, all the sources start again from the start of the trajectory. You have those knobs, translation and rotation. From your point of view, you can just move the whole trajectory away or rotate it around you if you want, both at the same time. You have this mode, all source at once, which when you turn one knob, it applies to all the source at once. For instance, speed, scale, or you change one LFO. Since yesterday, you can have a trajectory preset loading and saving. So I hope you will play around and design me a very nice trajectory, and you save them, that I can play after with them. And so you have two modes of use. Standalone use that you will see today on the demo. So 6 inputs and 8 outputs. So ambisonics order is maximum, it's 2 in this demo. And if you go for the remote system control, then it's your system the limit. All right, so finally a picture of the gear itself. That was 2 weeks ago. and and today, hopefully it's working. And yep, so it's upstairs, and I hope you'll come and try it and give me feedback to see. I hope it will be a tool which can be used for a musician to play with 3D sounds. That's the idea here. So thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer to it.